Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hey, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. You know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com, FamilyPetAncestry.com. You're probably already there. Let's do the credits. Mike Rickberg composed and sang that song with his wife, Sarah, that you just heard. He's going to sing his version of the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Patrick Brady is going to fix this audio, and Vilmos works on JackieCation.com, the website. There are many ways to support the show. The Amazon link is one. You can use an Amazon link from JackieCation.com or DorkForest.com to go to Amazon. You order like normal, and it supports the show. There is a straight-up donation button, PayPal or Venmo, to this email address that is mine, Jackie at JackieCation.com, where you can just donate to the show if you like the show a lot. I think PayPal has figured out a way to do a monthly. If you want to go monthly, please do. Other ways to support the show if you want to is you can buy merch. There's Dork Forest t-shirts, and all the shirts are union made here in America, so they run a little big. Union Bayside, so if you want to look up their size chart. And then the other merch is my stand-up merch. On JackieCation.com, you can watch me do stand-up, you can look at my schedule, and the stand-up merch, a couple of different t-shirts, a couple of different enamel pins, and all of my CDs and my DVD. If you want to live stream my DVD, it's over there at comedyfilmnerds.com. They have a live streaming capability, or you can get a hard copy of the DVD on my website. Oh, there are premium episodes at Bandcamp. TheDorkForest.bandcamp.com has probably 10 episodes that were done live. They cost me a couple of bucks to make, so I charge you a couple of bucks. If you've run out of regular episodes, go over to TheDorkForest.bandcamp.com and get some more. Other than that, I say this. Let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to my living room. I'm here. I've strong-armed this guy right here. There's going to be some salty language, I'm told. Auggie Smith, welcome to the program.
How are you, Jackie?
Here we are.
I'm very excited. This is my first solo
Dork Forest. This is it.
Now, and I've told you over the years, there's only a few things that I'm really into.
Yeah.
I'm into baseball.
That could have been a thing.
I'm into Nicolas Cage movies.
That definitely could have been a thing.
And I'm into dead comics. Those are the three things that I'm into.
And I insisted on the dead comics because I didn't know about the other two. But I'll tell you this much. Here's what happened. I'm at lunch with people we both know. Mm-hmm. Emery.
Sure. That's it. That's one guy, everybody.
That's one guy.
Yeah.
That's a guy named Emery.
Yeah.
And
Jackie's not having a stroke and repeating everything.
Nope. And here's a skinny on Matt Kirshen. And Emery was talking about the history of stand-up comedy. And I said, the only history of stand-up comedy I want to hear is from Auggie Smith and stories from the road. Maybe just dead comics, because then they can't be mad that he's told the stories.
You can't be mad. You can't be mad if you're dead.
You can't. It's one of the key great things about deadness.
All of the anger goes away.
That's
it floats away with your debts and your anger.
Finally, the rage gone and taxes gone. Anyway, so we met. We could tell people this. 90s. That's when we met.
Wow.
1990s, the last century.
Oh, that was so exciting.
Acme, I think.
Probably.
That's what I remembered.
I don't know.
There were
Then when I moved here, it was Jane Edith Wilson was always trying to set us up.
Right, because her husband, Gary Lucy, good friend of yours from the day.
Yeah. Yeah, he started in Portland.
Because a Portland guy.
Yeah.
Because you lived in Portland. You lived in New York.
Yeah, and then I moved back to Portland. I moved because I moved down to Portland to Los Angeles. Then I moved from Los Angeles back to Portland, which is a good career move.
Well,
good career move. I wanted to get away from the entertainment industry for a little while.
If there was just a way to get away from all the business.
I was like 30, and I'm like, I've done everything I'm ever going to do in this business. I've headlined all the one-nighters.
Exactly.
So I might as well go home and retire.
Is there a four-wall somewhere in Victorville, California that I don't need to go back to.
Yeah.
Best Western, that they're just doing comedy one night a week and it's a Thursday.
Hey, welcome to Nuts Comedy Night.
It's crazy. We're nuts.
We're going to have the crazy hair contest, but first we got a couple of comedians for you.
And I'll tell you, here's the thing about the Dork Forest. I've done very few episodes about stand-up comedy, and you're one of the only people that I would encourage such a thing. Who are your favorite dead comedians? I could mention my favorite dead comedians, and you might know them.
Okay, well, you start.
Well, you got a Mitch Hedberg story?
Oh, I got a Mitch Hedberg story.
What's that?
So Mitch and I, this isn't necessarily a story. It was just my favorite thing that Mitch did.
Okay.
So Mitch, like, he would go up and I did the Seattle contest with him, and I want to say 97.
Okay.
And I had never seen him before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so we get to the semifinals week, and that's the first time I saw him. And because I was going to win. I was going to win.
Right.
Jackie, I was going to win.
Auggie Smith,
I was
hilarious.
young, I was strong, I was hilarious, and I was going to win. It was
You were
my
on fire.
contest
Yes.
to win.
It was yours to lose.
And then I saw him.
Then you see
and
Mitch
I'm like,
Hedberg.
there's no way I'm ever going to beat this guy.
Right. Then you said to yourself,
he
I'm
is-
probably not going to
Because
win.
this ridiculous contest, doesn't take place in Seattle. It takes place all over Washington.
Oh, that is weird.
And it takes place in bars, and it takes place in theaters, and it takes place in casinos. And Hedberg crushed in every single one of them, every type of venue. Every night he would go up, and his first minute would be in the moment about whatever was going on, and it was always genius. Oh, he made me so mad.
Oh,
but
my
so
God,
then
that's
afterwards,
amazing.
we'd all be hanging out at the bar or whatever,
Right.
and some, yokel would want to come up and talk to Hedberg.
Sure.
And Hedberg would sit there and talk to him, and here's what Hedberg's saying. He'd look over and he'd say, "Hey, Auggie, this guy wants to meet you." And you'd come over, and Hedberg would just walk away. And then you're just standing with this dude.
So he would last as long as he could.
Yeah.
With the audience member who wanted to be
And
his
as
best
long as he
friend.
could was 4 or 5 words.
Oh, really?
The guy would be half a sentence. And he's like, "Hey, Auggie, this guy wants to meet you."
Oh my God.
That's the thing. He did not suffer fools.
He did not. He seemed like the mellowest guy in the world, but he was not. He was just a slow talker. That's all it was.
Yeah.
That's it. What didn't mean that his brain didn't work, and that he was going to just sit there and have you lecture him about what kind of comedy you were supposed to be doing.
And the other thing, he bombed for years before he figured it out, and before the audience figured it out. I remember I worked the Davenport Funny Bone for Mankey.
Oh,
Mankey.
Gary Mankey?
Gary Mankey.
The banker.
That's right. If you, by the way, there's a term in comedy. If you get screwed over, if you get told there's a gig and you show up and there's no gig, that's called getting mankered. So that's who Gary Mankey is.
That's a guy who, let's just light that bridge on fire, because it was an unruly, unwieldy, unreliable bridge to begin with.
Yeah. Don't walk over that bridge.
That's a bridge that's about to crash and burn.
We need a construction crew at the base of that bridge. So I go into the Davenport Funny Bone, and Hedberg had been the feature of the week before me.
Yeah.
And Mankey was just like nobody. They hated this guy. And so one night, Mitch, he gets through his half hour to just nothing, and then he said, "You know what? I'm walking off the stage now, and you guys don't need to applaud or anything." And just left to silence. And I love that story so much that I do that. At least once a month. If a show is just kind of okay, I get mad at the crowd and I tell them everybody's got to be quiet when I leave now, and nobody's allowed. And it's the oddest thing. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's the oddest energy you'll ever get leaving a stage, because there's just everybody just immediately thinks they need to put their hands together when they watch somebody walk away from a microphone.
Yep.
And they're not allowed to. And they sit there in silence as you walk through the crowd and look all of them right in the face.
Wait, so you genuinely just do it?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want your applause at this point, because it's just okay.
At this point in my life, I've probably done it 30 times. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Inspired by Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah, inspired by just a story that I heard about Mitch Hedberg. Yeah. I'm keeping it alive. I liked it, so I'm keeping it alive.
So
Jackie.
Mitch Hedberg started in Florida, and then he was a Seattle guy?
Yeah, he was in the Pacific Northwest, and the reason he was doing the Seattle contest is because he was editing his movie. He made a movie about working in a Mexican restaurant.
What?
So that's why I had to go up
I
against
did not
Yeah.
know that.
I think it exists out
It's
there.
got to exist.
It's sort of like, it was like the precursor to Waiting. You ever see the movie Waiting?
Oh, no, but I heard about it.
Yeah.
And then all I know is that he grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. And Minneapolis comedy scene
What is it about Minneapolis?
wants to claim him so bad.
You can't have him.
That's it. That's what I told him because I met him. It had to be 96 or 97, and he was starting to blow up.
Yeah.
And he came and he did Gaultier Plaza Comedy Gallery, a room that was ridiculously big by 1996 standards, which means that it was 320 people. And everyone was like, "You're nuts! You're insane! It's too big."
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I opened for Gallagher 2 there. A lot of great things are happening.
Gallagher, too.
2.
Yeah.
And but I met Mitch that year. It had to be like 95 because it was a couple of years before I stopped trying. I was still just trying to stop drinking. And it was my birthday. So it was July 20th, 1995.
Nobody can stop drinking on their birthday.
Well, that's what Mitch said. And and I don't know why I told him.
Right.
Because he was famous even then for being a guy who liked an adult beverage.
Yeah.
And so we were hanging out at the bar next to the club because the club was so poorly run by this late date, the Gaultier Plaza Comedy Gallery, that you could not get a beer. You could not get a beverage. So we were at the next bar over paying for liquor. And I was broke. And I said to Mitch, it's my birthday. And I'm going to stop drinking. And he goes, not tonight, though. And I said, well, it seems like a good time because I'm broke. Well, this is just a fishing expedition at this point. Hey, and he goes, oh, I'll buy you a shot and a beer. And I was like, and we're done.
Yeah, there we go.
And then we're off on
Not quitting today.
That's it. 2 years later. So it must have been, I think I stopped in 97. So 95.
when Mitch's money ran out.
When his money ran out. Yeah.
When his bar tab ran out.
Right.
That's
So,
when I quit.
but I just remember saying, he's from St. Paul. He's from St. Paul. And me going, it doesn't count. He didn't do stand-up here to begin with. He's not connected to the scene.
Yeah. No.
He loves other scenes.
Yeah.
Like where he came up is where you're from. That's
but I'm not
love.
even sure that Seattle claims him. I don't know, like, who
really claims him?
Yeah.
Like maybe it is Florida.
Yeah,
Always weird.
I hate to think of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because when you think of great comics from Florida, you got to dig.
Regan, right?
Well, Regan's
Both
the
of
best
them, the
lot.
two Regans.
Dennis and Brian, right there. And then Tom Papa, I think. Is that
Really?
right?
Papa?
I think Papa is.
No.
But the worst horrible comedian I ever met was from Florida. And it tainted the entire
Right.
pool ever since then.
And then everybody else that's ever been from Florida. Those are the two things that taint
Isn't
Florida.
Carmen Morales from Florida?
Carmen Morales is lovely,
is also
and she's
from
Florida.
she's
I would like to tell you a
hilarious.
story about her, but she's alive.
She is alive.
And
so-
that is against the rules of what we're
of
talking
what we're doing.
about.
If we have to go to a live comics, let's do it in the 40th minute, shall we? It's still early times. We're just 10 minutes in.
So I want to talk about
Yep.
our buddy, the late, great Brody Stephens.
Oh, man.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I know.
You got a Brody Stephens?
Oh, I got about 3. Because I knew Brody. Brody also, he started in Seattle. And so
That's
I knew him a little bit
right.
up there. And then when I moved down here in 2000, he was down here. And then when I moved
He had
back
a
here again
podcast.
with, him and Tana Manu used to have a public broadcast show.
Yes.
That was like, it was like a famous show. Like they were stars.
Yeah.
Because they were just a brilliant comedy team together, the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I moved down here with my wife, when I became an adult,
Right.
in my
right.
early 40s,
In your early 40s when you finally...
I moved into Brody's neighborhood. Right?
Okay.
So Brody and I were in the
Right
same
here in the
neighborhood.
818?
But my favorite story is, right around 2000 when I was living down here, I get a one-nighter in Kingman, Arizona. Mm-hmm. And Kingman, Arizona is probably a 5 or 6 hour drive.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing about Brody Stephens, is that Brody Stephens is brilliant on stage, and Brody Stephens is a lovely man, but Brody Stephens is a pain in the ass. He is a pain in the ass. Like, it's hilarious on stage for half an hour.
Yep.
But in a car, in your face for 5 hours,
One way.
it's a bit much.
It's a lot.
World's largest thermometer. every city you walk by, or every city you drive by, it's always he's got some weird home of George Duke Magian. So we get there.
Oh my God, that's the basketball coach from Las Vegas, right?
No, George Duke Magian was the governor.
He was the governor of
California.
That's
You're thinking
right.
of Jerry Tarkanian.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a different Armenian. Anyway, go.
He was one of your people. I thought you'd like it.
They're both of my people. Yes.
So
Tark the Shark.
we get to the gig, and it's one of these gigs. It was run by this guy. I forget his name, but when the Omaha Funny Bone moved locations, this guy moved into the old Funny Bone location.
Oh.
Like, well, this used to be a comedy club. I'm going to do another one, baby.
I'm an insurance
And I remember
salesman, but
he was
let's
in
do
the
it.
Air Force. Yeah, that was the other thing about it.
Wow.
Anyway, so he had this gig in Kingman, Arizona. So I bring Brody with me. And so he's in my face the whole time, and I'm kind of sick of him. We get there, and I'm kind of sick of him.
Yep.
So we do the show, and then there was this group of girls that worked at Sonic.
Wow. The fast food chain,
I remember
Sonic.
I remember they worked at Sonic.
Okay.
And Nevada is about a half-hour drive from there. And
Okay.
obviously you can drink there
Kingston.
24 hours. Yeah.
24
from
hours.
Kingman.
Yep.
So I go with a group of people to Nevada, and Brody wants to stay back at the hotel. And it wasn't a hotel, it was a motel where you pull right up to the door,
Sure.
right? And I have this memory of where we go back to the motel and drop Brody off. And then there was another girl in the car that was thinking about, like, staying,
Right,
staying and hanging out with Brody. And then the door opens up, and, like, the lights of our headlamps are hitting the door. And Brody has his shirt off, and he's just standing in the doorway, like, flexing. Like, just putting his arms out and everything, and just, like, stretching his arms. And Brody looked good. Brody was always in
baseball
good shape.
player. He was always very
He was
fit.
just, like, he was all muscular and hairy and stuff, So, that was just killing me. He was just, like, posing. So, we head up to Nevada. I drink, and this is part of the story.
Wait, the girl, did she stay with Brody?
The girl
or not?
did end up staying, and she's
Okay.
my Facebook friend.
Okay.
And I found out because I posted this story.
Yep.
And so
And she was like, that was me.
She was like, that was me. I was like, there's no way. I can't believe.
That's awesome.
That somebody remembers this. So she stays. I go up to Nevada with this group of people. And this is part of the story, Jackie. I
Yep.
just have to tell you.
All right.
I ended up going back and having sex with a young lady.
Does that seem important?
It's important
I
to
think
the story.
everyone needs
I
to know that
promise
Auggie
it's
Smith
important.
would get laid
I
sometimes
had sex
on
in
the
my
road.
life. In case you're wondering.
Sometimes on the road, Auggie Smith
I was a
would
younger
hit the
man.
lottery.
I was
You were-
much
you
better
were
looking.
single.
It just sort of came to
There
me.
you go.
It just sort of came to me. So
Important for the story.
it's important to the story because we had to leave early for some reason. We couldn't just whenever the motel
Her
was
shift at
taken up.
Sonic, possibly? Possibly?
If I remember correctly, we had rented a car and we needed to have it back within the 24 hours.
Okay.
I think that was it. Mm-hmm. Whatever it was like we had to leave at like 9 o'clock in the morning. So I go from drinking to sex to in a car with Brody.
Oh,
like
right.
with no sleeping or anything.
Right.
And
Are
this
you
is the
driving?
desert. No, I drove there, but Brody's driving back because I'm
Okay.
not doing too well.
Yep.
But Brody's still in my face the whole time. Like we're driving. Auggie, you had sex. You had sex. I'm like, Brody, can I just no, but you had sex. And he was one of
Did
these
Brody
guys.
not have sex?
We still don't know to this day. And I want to ask the girl on Facebook.
If she could find out.
And Brody's driving. He's one of these guys that when he drives, he's got those big gorilla arms.
Yep.
So like the
Big
chair
guy.
is all the way to the back of
He's
the
a big,
car.
tall guy.
And just these big long arms
Yep.
are driving. And he's turning and he's facing me while he's talking to me.
Yeah.
And like for long periods
Oh,
of time.
right.
You know when a guy does
Terrifyingly.
that?
Yeah.
It's just like, watch the road, Brody.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So we stop at a McDonald's to get breakfast, right? And this is all on me. I can make all the excuses you want.
Sure.
But I was hungover and tired and hot and Brody-ized. I was
Right.
just I'd
a lot
been
of Stephen
Brody-ized.
Brody Stevens going on right there.
And so I was rude. I made my order and I was rude. I
Yeah.
was rude to the woman. I can't tell you exactly what I said. I can tell you that it was rude.
Yeah.
So I get my pancakes and my Egg McMuffin and I sit
Yep.
down and Brody sits down at the table with me. And he's going, Auggie, you harmed that girl. You harmed her. You harmed her. I don't know if she's going to be okay. I don't know if she's going to be okay. I'm like, Brody, she's going to be fine. He said, no, you need to go apologize. And kid just kept at me. He kept at me like, you need to. So I'm like,
you got to go back.
No, we're sitting at the table. We're not in the car.
Oh,
we're sitting
right.
We stayed.
He wants you to go back up to the counter. He wants me to go
back up to the counter and apologize.
Right.
Like, fine, Brody, you know what? I'm going to go up and apologize.
Okay.
So I get up, and of course, Brody gets up too. We're going together.
You got a witness.
And it's one of these things where we have to get back in line.
Oh,
like there's like a couple people waiting to order, and we got to get in our woman's line. Right?
Yep.
So we're waiting there, and the whole time, Brody is just standing over me. He's a tall dude, and he's just shaking his head up and down like, yeah.
Slow.
Like, yeah, he's got his arms crossed, and he's like, yep, this will be good. This will be good for you. So we get up to there, and I said, and I'm about to talk to her, and Brody, of course, wasn't okay with that. So he said, excuse me, everybody. Auggie has something he'd like to say to Teresa.
Oh, my God.
Auggie,
she's wearing a name tag.
Auggie, you have the floor. And so now there's probably 7 or 8 people like paying attention, like what's going on here? Like turning over. And so all eyes are on me. And I said, look, Teresa, I was rude to you earlier, and it wasn't anything you did.
Right.
It's all because of me and because of my issues.
Right.
And I hope you'll accept my apology.
Right.
For being rude to you. And before Teresa can speak back, Brody, so Teresa, do you accept Augie's seemingly sincere apology?
A Judge Joe.
Like, exactly, yeah. Like, yeah.
What on earth?
Like he's like one of those judge shows.
Yeah, it's a Judge Judy, Judge.
Do you accept Augie's seemingly sincere apology?
Seemingly?
I mean, it seems sincere to me, but you never know what's in somebody's heart.
You said that.
So then Teresa
yes, please.
So Teresa says, yes, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
It's okay.
And Brody says, yes! Positivity! Redemption! And led the people in a small round of applause.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Yes. So...
Oh, my God.
It's one of those moments where you're like, when you're in it, you're like, okay, I'm in a bit now.
Yeah.
This is exciting. This is a happening. This is
very
happening
much,
right now.
It's very much that. My ad. I'm about to do an ad. Rangers, this is another ad for the New Yorker. You know that you can get 12 weeks of the New Yorker for $6, plus the tote, the exclusive tote. Go to newyorker.com/dork. Rangers, you save 50% when you enter the code DORK. Live by a code. Who doesn't want to do that? And it's the New Yorker, you guys. They represent the best writing in America today. I was just reading the cartoons online. You get both the digital and the hard copy, by the way, when you do this. 12 weeks for $6. You get home delivery of the print edition. You get unlimited access to the NewYorker.com with 10 to 15 exclusive site-only stories every day. You get access to the apps, of course, online archive, the crossword puzzle. Just did a New York Times crossword puzzle episode with Michelle Balloon, and it's the New Yorker. You're going to want to do it. The New Yorker covers all the topics: politics, news, international affairs, climate change, the environment, pop culture, the arts, fiction, food, humor, and the cartoon. I genuinely love the cartoons. Sometimes the cartoons are all the things that I can read, but they write beautifully on all the subjects. So there's in-depth analysis. It's my favorite kind of news because it's like the pioneer days. A week later, we get some in-depth analysis. So get 12 weeks of the New Yorker for $6 plus the exclusive tote bag at newyorker.com/dork. You get 50% off when you enter the code DORK. Let's get back into the show.
If you want to know the heart of Stephen Brody Stephens.
Yeah.
So I have a wife, Julie, and I have 2 young children, Porter and Dottie.
Yes.
Brody always remembered the name of my wife and the name of my kids.
Yeah.
When he saw them.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I've known guys 15 years. I don't know the names of their wives. I definitely don't know the names of their kids.
Right.
And so my favorite story, and I wasn't even there for this one, Julie is wheeling a brand new Dottie around the neighborhood.
Sure.
Like, Dottie is like a few months old at this point.
I held Porter when he was 4 days old.
Yes, you did.
Because you said, hey, we're going to the coffee shop. And I said, that baby's brand new. He's 4 days old. She's like, yeah, he's not going to walk there himself. We're going to carry him. And I was like, well, people don't bring their brand new babies out to a public place. They're like, that's going to be fine. We're coming.
It's fine. It's fine.
And
It's fine.
I carried that. I broke a hard one rule that I never carry a baby while standing under the age of 3 months. Because I was afraid I'm going to break a baby.
You never carry a baby while standing under the age of 3 months. It's a good
Under the
rule.
age of 3 months,
Yeah.
I'm seated. You hand me your child.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's something you get over pretty fast.
Right. If it's your kid and you got to manhandle it to some extent to change it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it's fine. Anyway, Brody Stephens.
So he sees my wife Julie, walking around Valley Village, and of course Julie, wife of Auggie, Ohio State Buckeyes.
That's right. Because she
And
went to Ohio State.
she says, "Hi, Brody. This is our new daughter, Dottie." Mm-hmm. And so Brody, and unfortunately, over the podcast, you won't get as funny as this is, but he looks down at Dottie, and he goes, "She looks fine." Like shaking his head, like she looks fine, as though there had been this rumor there was something wrong with my baby.
That is such a comic way to look.
Isn't that? It
Yes.
was just perfect. It's like I challenge you to find a funnier thing you can say about a new baby. She looks fine.
She looks fine.
Yeah, and Julia's like, well, yeah. No, what did
Yeah,
you?
yeah. 10 fingers, 10 toes, perfect baby right there. That's a perfect child.
Nothing wrong.
There's
with
nothing
that
wrong with that baby. Thank you, Brody.
Yeah. So I had no idea how universally beloved Brody Stephens was.
Right.
He was, not just in the comedy world. The manager of the Chicago Cubs, Joe Madden, during a press conference last week, talked about Brody Stephens.
Wow.
Talked about how he's going to be missed at spring training. You right?
Oh,
You right?
that's amazing.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about a dude that touched some people.
That for real. And the thing about Brody is that he was. I mean, you just would end up doing his cadence and the way he talked.
Yeah,
you'd slip into
you
it,
can't
and then,
help it.
And then, as soon as you did it, you would have to announce to an audience that mostly didn't know him that you had just done a Brody Stephens.
Yeah. Yes.
And
yeah. You can't help but say.
You can't
do it. Yeah.
As soon as you said, it's like, ladies and gentlemen, and then you're like, so Brody,
Jackie Cation.
is Jackie. Yeah, I lost it, but
It's tough because his diction is perfect. He
Yes.
has perfect diction. Brody never said anything, and then people said, "What?"
Nope.
Like that in the history of his life.
It's true.
It was clear and concise, and
It's
he knew
true.
exactly what he was saying.
That is awesome.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that maybe a lot of the world doesn't know. The comedy world knows. There's another guy.
Yep.
And I don't know if you know him. Do you know Floyd J. Phillips? Did you ever know Floyd J. Phillips?
I knew Floyd J. Phillips on that board, that alt comedy board.
Oh, okay.
That's where
Okay.
I knew him from.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a Portland guy, and
Portland
and we
comic.
started together. And from the day that I met Floyd J. Phillips, he needed a kidney. Like he was just
Oh, wow.
born with a bum kidney.
Yep.
And so we did a big old fundraiser.
Sure.
Do a comedy show. What? Somebody's
Yep.
in trouble.
Yeah.
Let's put on a show. We can use my uncle's barn.
There's some old costumes in the attic.
Exactly.
Yes. It's true.
So we did a show, and he got his kidney.
Yep.
Did you know this? Kidneys have a lifespan. You think you get a kidney, you don't need a kidney anymore. You're wrong.
Wait, you
You're
don't get
wrong,
the kidney
Jackie.
for the whole time of your whole life?
No.
The rest you's working. Your new kidney.
A cadaver kidney lasts you like 10 years.
Then you need another one?
And a live kidney lasts you like 15 years. Yeah.
What?
And you know what hurts them even more?
What?
If you continue to drink vodka cranberry
Interesting.
every night of your life.
Even though you added the cranberry?
Yeah, even though you have the cranberry, which you think would be
Good for the
It's
kidney.
a diuretic, Jackie.
It's supposed to help a kidney.
It's supposed to help a kidney.
So Floyd, he kept going with the vodka cran.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You weren't going to
Interesting.
stop Floyd with the vodka cran. So here's a story, and this involves two dead guys. There was a comic called Cain Lopez. Did you ever know Cain
I did
Lopez? Lived around, he was a Modesto guy,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. One of those.
Marcella
like Bakersfield-
Arguello from Modesto.
Marcella Arguello.
Do you know her?
No, but it's a great name.
It's a great name. She does
Actually,
Women
I do
Crush
know her.
Wednesdays. She's super tall.
Yeah. I do know her. Yeah.
And she's constantly, speaking of the Brody Stephens diction, nobody's got, you know exactly when Marcella Arguello is talking because she's like, bitch, I am talking to you. And it's like that, except for more so, because I don't do voices. She was on the Dork Forest.
You do your voice.
I
very
do.
well,
This
though.
is it.
You
This
do
is
the best Jackie Cation that I've ever heard.
It's one of the best. Next. Okay, so Floyd. And,
So Floyd,
and Modesto.
Floyd had this apartment in North Portland, and it was called Camp Floyd because any comic coming through town was always welcome to stay there because this was Floyd's plan was anybody could stay with him, but then he could stay with anybody.
Oh, right.
He always
So that
had
was
a place
the plan.
to stay. So his apartment, it was pretty sparse. He had a bed in his bedroom. He had a couch that you could sleep on, and he had a weight bench. And there was a little tiny kitchen table that he had found on the street, and like 2 chairs. And that's basically what Camp Floyd had.
Okay.
And, so they wake up one morning, Kane Lopez is staying there, and they sit down at the little kitchen table, and Floyd has some Rice Krispies. So Kane pours his Rice Krispies and puts the milk in, and then Floyd pours his Rice Krispies and puts the milk in. And Kane starts eating his Rice Krispies. He's looking at Floyd, who's just staring at him. And Kane says, aren't you going to eat your cereal? And Floyd said, I'm waiting for you to get done with the spoon.
Oh, my God. Wow, that guy's dead? I'm shocked. Shocked that a guy who has one fucking spoon.
With the spoon.
Yeah.
And he was always angry about stuff. That was, I'm waiting for you to get done with the spoon. Like, idiot. So my favorite Floyd, though, is we were driving out to do, because we used to just go to each other's gigs, like when we were starting.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, you just get in the car. You're like,
You just get in the car and go.
Especially in the Pacific Northwest, there was like a million gigs within a couple hours of Portland itself.
Yeah, same in Minneapolis.
Right.
And
All
you'd
those
go because
one-nighters.
you would hope to meet whatever weirdo was booking it because
Right.
it might save you the postage of sending a VHS tape.
A big, thick VHS.
Yeah.
And you got to buy those special envelopes, the
Special
padded envelopes that were like...
And you had to buy VHSs.
And then you had to stand in line at the post office. How did we get anything done?
Well,
Like,
we got
just
the
that.
same amount got done. But it was easier to just hang. You were like, I'm just going to go with
Yeah.
Colleen Cruz and stand next to her while she gets to do stand-up comedy. And then hopefully that weirdo will book me to do stand-up comedy.
So there is a 10-year window where this story could have happened.
Yes.
It's anywhere between about 98 and 2008. Somewhere
Okay.
is when this story happened. And I was driving from Portland to Seaside, Oregon to do the Red Lion.
Okay.
And which is it's been a gig forever. I think it's still a gig. It's the bar in the Red Lion.
Okay.
So it's about a 2-hour drive from Portland. So Floyd and I are driving out together. And Floyd, he's in the passenger seat and he's in my face the whole time. Floyd is always broke. He's like, Auggie, you're going to give me some money for this, right? I'm like, Floyd, I'm not going to give you any money for this. I said, come on, Auggie. You're going to give me some money. Come on,
Right.
man. Floyd, I'm going to take your money. If I see you with money, I will rob you, Floyd. I'm not giving you any money. Come on, Auggie. You're going to give me like $40. Give me like $40. I said, Floyd,
40?
I'm not giving you shit. I'm not giving you anything. I said,
Because what were you making, 200?
I was making 200.
Okay.
Yeah, because 100, 200 gig.
Yeah.
And I said, Floyd, what about your CDs? Didn't you bring your CDs? You had those CDs made.
Yeah.
He says, I ran out. And he mails me. And I said, so I happen to, Floyd was African American, and I happened to be working with an African American comic like 2 weeks before that named Derek Cameron.
Okay.
Who is alive, by the way. Derek Cameron is alive.
He is alive to this day.
Yeah, Derek Cameron and I, we used to be the One Nighter Dream Team. I used to be his feature, and
Okay.
we were the big draw.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the back of my car was one of Derek Cameron's CDs, and so I just reached back and I said, Hold on, it gets better. So I reached back and I said, "Well, sell this." He says, "You know what? I'm gonna." So
Son of a bitch.
we get to the gig, and the feature does his time, and it's just some local guy that does like 15 minutes.
Right.
And then Floyd goes and does a guest set and does like, he's supposed to do 10, and he does like 25.
Yeah.
And he just crushes because he's Floyd.
Yep.
And then I go up and I do my hour. And at the end of my hour, I bring Floyd back up. And Floyd says, I say, so you remember Floyd J. Phillips from earlier? Well, he has a new CD coming out, and we have one copy of his old CD that we're going to auction off. And like Floyd is walking around the room. We got one left, everybody. We got one left, and then
Did
the
you
CD
tell the other
will
guy?
no longer exist, right?
Okay, finish this. Sorry.
And so people start bidding because they loved Floyd.
Right.
And guess what the CD went for?
What's it, $40?
$40.
Yes, $40. Now I want to know: does the alive guy know that this story? Does he
I
know
don't
this
think
story?
he does. I don't think I've ever told Derek this
This
because I
is-
haven't seen him in years. I would love to tell him.
And I
'Cause
wonder
when
what-
Floyd died is like when I was, you go through your head,
Yeah.
and you start cycling these stories.
Yeah.
But then here's how cool and magnanimous Floyd was. He sat down. We sat down with the guy.
Yeah.
And like Floyd bought him a drink with his $40.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah.
And it was so because it says Derek Cameron, and it's a picture of another black guy.
Right, it's not a picture
not
of Floyd.
Floyd.
Right, it's a different person.
It's a completely different person. Not at all the same.
Okay, Derek Cameron. We have to. Do you remember the name of the album? Do you remember which album it was? People should get out there. You guys listen to a Derek Cameron album and think of Floyd, because that's what we want you to do. Right?
Think of Floyd J. Phillips every time you hear Derek Cameron.
Yeah, when you hear and say to yourself, "This wasn't Floyd's act at all." It turns out.
Floyd and I, then we got booked. Remember the gig in Moscow, Idaho? You ever do that one?
No, but I've heard of it.
Right. This was a John Fox gig, and it was a John Fox gig for years. It was a weekend. It was a Wednesday, but then it was a Friday, Saturday. But they had a different comic for the Wednesday and then for the weekend.
Oh man!
Like, can you imagine?
Nope.
So
Yep.
this was Floyd and I. We get booked to do it. I think we were either co-headlining or something. It doesn't matter. So we go out there, and this one made me laugh. So Floyd, God, another guy, pain in the ass, always broke.
Yep.
You'd get pissed off at him for a million different things. But I was always a fat kid, and then when I started doing stand-up, I started lifting weights and stuff. But I always felt like I didn't look good.
Right.
And Floyd, a cool thing about him was he always made me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
He always said, "Oh, you look good, man. You look good." So,
Right.
we go out after the gig, and he got me to wear like this tight T-shirt,
Right.
which I would never wear in my life, but it felt really cool. Then I'm walking around the bar,
Yeah.
and we started talking to these two girls, and Floyd was really, really good with girls.
Okay.
And he was like, so there was this girl there. He's like, "Yeah, you, where are you going tonight? You should go back to the hotel with Auggie." Like, seriously. And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And so we go out onto the dance floor to dance. Mm-hmm. Well, this girl happened to have a boyfriend,
Oh, there you go.
and he was this very, very muscular gentleman
Right.
that showed up on the dance floor, just came over to her.
Right.
And she looked at him, and she kind of put her head down, and the two of them walked
Ew.
off the dance floor together.
Yeah, terrifying.
And they apparently walked right by Floyd.
Yeah.
And so then I walk off the dance floor, and Floyd's looking at me, and he's shaking his head, and he's kind of laughing. And I said, "Yeah, that guy, he just took his girl back." He says, "Yeah, I saw him come in. I saw him head over there. I figured you'd be laid out on the floor. I figured he'd knock you out." I said, "You thought he knocked me out and you just let him walk by?" And Floyd said, "You shouldn't have been messing around with this girl."
Oh my God. That is so ridiculous. What a weird.
So I got a couple of famous guy stories too.
Okay, do that. Do that.
Now, some of these stories I was involved in, and some of them I've just heard in my life.
Sure. Well, the thing, Og, is that you have heard some of the greatest stories.
Yeah.
You've got that. That's what you've got in your holster right there. Is you got stories of comics that, whatever. Go.
So Bill Hicks, the great Bill Hicks.
The late great Bill Hicks.
We just celebrated 25 years since he left us. Can you believe that? 25 years.
Did you ever get to meet him?
You know, I never did. You?
Me neither. No.
Yeah. What's wrong with us?
Well,
We do
I don't know.
comedy.
We do comedy. But the thing is
And back when we were doing it, when he did it, there was only like 9 comics. How would
right. We should have met him. It was
should have met him.
like I met Kinnison, right? Like I met Kinnison a couple of
Did
times.
you?
Yeah. He was the guy that I heckled. That's how I got into
Oh,
comedy.
that's right. Yeah,
it
I
was
remember
Bill
this.
Kinnison's
Remember.
brother, Sam Kinnison, much more famous than Bill. But I still have the first check from comedy signed by Bill Kinnison. Wow. Not the actual check. Cash the check. Xerox.
You did, the Xerox
Yeah.
of the check.
Remember the Xerox?
It would have been so cool if you had actually put it under glass or whatever.
Oh, I
And you
could
had
I
it-
could put the
and you had
Xerox
it
under
in-
glass.
No, it's not the same.
Oh, it's almost the
It's
same.
like taking a picture of the first dollar you made.
It's
You
Yeah,
gotta have
which-
the actual dollar.
No, you don't. You can have a Xerox of a $10 check with Bill Kinnison's signature on it. Sure.
So there's a
Bill
it
Hicks.
used to be a club up in Walnut Creek in Northern California, and Walnut Creek is like a
It's
sort
the
of
suburb
rich, yeah.
that Lori Kilmartin grew up in.
What?
Yes.
Okay then.
Whenever she says, I'm from San Francisco, I always smile a little bit and go, nope.
Nope.
San
Not
Francisco
from the hard
comic.
scrabble streets of San Francisco.
Nope.
No.
The hard scrabbled streets.
Of Walnut
Creek.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they had a club there, and Hicks was headlining it, and it was like
What year is this?
this would have been late 80s.
Okay.
And so it is a regular show, MC, feature, headliner.
Okay.
And it's one of these rooms where it had long tables. So you'd
like a
you'd be on
Lutheran
stage.
pancake.
Yeah. There should be like long tables. And so right front and center on the stage are two women sitting across from each other at the long table.
Okay.
And they're talking. And they're talking to each other, and they're talking to the comics. And the MC is just nailing them, and they're not shutting up.
And they won't shut up.
And then the feature spends most of his half hour nailing them, and they won't shut up. And the club isn't doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So Hicks gets on stage, and he's got like a drink in his hand. And before he says anything, he just takes the microphone, and he hunkers down like a catcher.
Yeah.
Right at the end of the stage, right in front of him. He says, "What the fuck are you two bitches talking about?" And the woman goes to throw her drink in his face.
Yeah.
And he takes his mic'd hand to block it.
Yeah.
And it hits the glass, and the glass shatters. And the woman screams.
Right.
And they both get up and leave. Now, the crowd doesn't see all this.
Right.
What the crowd sees is him say, "What the fuck are you two bitches talking about?" Then backhand this woman in the face with this microphone. So
that something
immediately
breaks.
everybody, just this packed house, just gets up in unison and leaves. Just screaming like, "This is an outrage! How dare you!
Oh my
I
God.
can't believe you've seen a woman like that!" And except for like 12 people
Right.
that stay. And as Hicks said, you gotta kind of wonder about the 12 that stayed. He just hit her. What's he gonna do next?
Right. Oh my God.
I heard it from a guy that claims he was one of the comics, if I remember correctly.
He was
But
in the show.
I've told that story to Dwight Slade, and Dwight Slade was Bill's best friend, and he says that story is absolutely true.
Okay.
And the amendment to the story is that was the first show. So the second show, the women call the cops.
Right.
And so the second show's all lined up outside.
Yeah.
And the cops are showing up, interrogating the comics they're going to see. And the way Dwight told me is that Hicks is actually talking to a cop in front of his poster.
Right. So poster of him and then him
And
standing
then
next to
him
him.
having to explain why he hit this woman in the face.
She throws her drink at him.
Yeah.
He goes to block it
He
with
goes
the
to
mic and
smash.
and shatters the glass.
Yeah.
Just so that we're clear, he did not backhand.
He
the
did
audience.
not backhand her.
An audience member.
No, that did
at
not
no time
happen.
was there any
It
hitting.
just appeared that he did.
It just looked like it because that is the biggest problem with hecklers. That is a great story.
Bill Hicks is a guy that Dwight was telling me another story, and there's a little build up to the story, but he says Hicks was describing his set the night before to him. He says, "I don't really remember how it went. I just know that at the end of the night I was screaming, Hitler was right. He just wasn't motivated enough," as people were filing out of the room.
Oh my God.
Because when he wanted to piss off a crowd,
he could
piss
walk
off
some
a
people.
crowd.
He could walk some people.
Yeah.
He was essentially, I think Doug Stanhope was, will sometimes be that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he has sort of taken up the mantle of a
Yeah.
guy who is, in my opinion, a genius sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then,
I think
then
that
we'll walk
Stanhope
a crowd.
is one of the true poets of this job. I mean, the sentences that he can string together are like Bukowski. It's just
they're gorgeous
it's
and
beautiful.
Right, and then but I have seen him also do sets where he is done. He is not talking to those people, and those people can fuck themselves and get out. And he will walk a room. That story about him walking 1,200 people in 4th and B in San Diego, I've told it on the show before, but he literally, Doug Stanhope, he is alive, by the way.
Doug Stanhope is alive.
Is alive.
Yeah.
Collector of Leisure Suits, previous episode of The Dork Forest. Standing on stage, just saying to the audience, "You don't walk me, I walk you." And then
You don't walk me, I walk you.
right, because they had been so bad the previous week, I guess, that they had made the comic had given up in like a half an hour, and just much like Mitch Hedberg, but it was Greg Barrett who said, "I'm going to leave. There's an $150 that's worth this." And he left the stage, and Stanhope stayed, and he said, "You don't walk me, I walk you." And then probably said something pro-Hitler.
Yeah,
and
that gets him. That's the one. I don't know anymore though if it would. I think
Right.
A lot of the rooms I work, that might bring some more people in.
they're like, "Oh, thank God someone's talking about Hitler in the way he ought to be." What just happened?
I was at a house party with Stanhope circa maybe 98, 99. And just as a goof,
Sure.
Stanhope leaps into my arms, and we start making out, like full on making out.
Yeah.
And he's like got his legs wrapped around me like a baby Bjorn.
Yeah.
And we're walking around the party, and nobody's really reacting to it. So Doug like stops, and we both look around, and he's like, "Well, I guess we got to do this until somebody acknowledges."
That is easily. Why hasn't that story been told to me before? Because that's
never heard that one?
No,
Oh, yeah?
that is not one I've heard.
It's just the idea of like, okay, I guess we got to do it. And then finally somebody like, "Hey, look at those two. Oh, thank God.
Thank God. I guess we're done making out.
Because he hadn't shaved or anything. It was like, it was scratchy.
Right, you're looking for a smoother kiss.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, it was my first real man kiss.
Man on man action right there at a house party. That's the thing about Doug is he's willing to try some stuff just to get the laugh, someone will hand him a drug, he won't ask.
No.
He'll just take it. Then go, "What was that?"
He lives the life. He is an artist. And he lives an artist's
He's
life.
a caricature of an artist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is very much that.
He's doing the thing that we all
George
want.
Carlin died of old age in his bed.
He doesn't need the industry. He created his own. We're getting off the topic though. 'Cause Doug is not dead.
No.
You know who is dead?
Who?
Uncle Dirty.
Uncle Dirty?
Do you know Uncle Dirty?
I don't know Uncle Dirty.
You never had the pleasure of Uncle Dirty.
I never had the pleasure of meeting Uncle Dirty.
Uncle Dirty was an East Coast guy, and Uncle Dirty was Uncle Dirty. He was
Sure.
Uncle Dirty.
I bet you he was a little dirty.
Now, this story, it is a little salty.
Sure.
And it's in 2 parts. And it did not happen to me. It happened to my friend. Do you know Mark Wilde? You must know Mark Wilde.
Not offhand. But
Mark
I
Wilde,
know the name.
old school comic, started in the 80s. He's still working. He's in Vegas. He does like celebrity impersonations.
Okay.
He's really good at doing it. Okay. In fact, I'm going to tell you a Mark Wilde joke, a Mark Wilde story, just to set up the Uncle Dirty story.
Got it.
So Wilde was coming through Portland when I lived there, and it was the last night of Cheers.
Okay.
And this is a great show business story. It just tells you everything you need to know about this business. So I had a terrible little place. I lived in somebody's basement, and I had a tiny little TV. So we decided to go to a bar where like a radio station was putting on an event to watch the last Cheers.
Right.
And one of the part of it was a Cheers lookalike contest. Okay. And the prize... I remember the prize being $200. Whatever it was good. It was
right.
it was a useful thing. It was
right.
something
it was a decent
you would
amount
want
of money.
in 1993 or whatever.
Sure.
So Wilde is great at impressions, and he does a really good John Ratzenberger.
Okay.
Cliff, and he also sort of looks like Cliff. He can twist his face so he kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
So like. There's like 5 people on stage, and they're just people from the crowd. And there's like a blonde that's supposed to be Diane, and a handsome guy, and just like nobody's any good. And then they get to Mark Wilde, and he like does a few lines as Cliff.
Yeah.
And the crowd, yeah, all right. And the money's in the bag. The money is in the bag. So then the woman.
Did Mitch Hedberg show up? No, I'm kidding.
The woman from the radio station is doing the thing where she puts the hand over the people's heads.
Yep.
And people start applauding, and they're about to get to Wilde, right? And it's in the bag because everybody's just like very tepid, and they're about to get to Wilde, and then somebody like Enrico Palazzo moment from Naked Gun just stands up and says, "Norm, and points to just some fat guy sitting at the bar wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Just who wasn't even involved in this.
Right.
He's just a fat guy in a suit.
Right.
He wasn't even drinking a beer, Jackie.
He was sitting
drinking
at
a
the
mixed drink. And he's just a fat guy in a suit. And everybody goes, Norm. And he ended up winning.
No.
For dude just sitting there.
Oh, my
And he won the $200.
Holy shit.
And that's
really,
everything you need to know about show business right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why try?
Yeah. Why try?
Strive at all?
Why be good? Why be good? So anyway, Wild years ago is working with Uncle Dirty at a club, right?
Yep.
And they're sharing a condo.
Okay.
And let's just say that it's Florida because I remember it being Florida. Mm-hmm. And the story's in 2 parts. Okay, it's in 2 parts.
Okay.
So they spent a couple days in the condo and they're not really talking to each other. And Wild he's just a little bit intimidated, but he wants to start a conversation. So one day he walks into the living room and Uncle Dirty's sitting there. And Wild says, so Dirty, how you doing? And Uncle Dirty said, you know, kid, life is funny. In my life, I've robbed a bank, sucked a cock, and killed a guy. And Wild said, okie doke. So Wild thought this was sort of a funny thing for somebody to say to him.
Yeah.
So he get back to L.A. and he was seeing this Orange County girl.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the Orange County girl. And he's telling her the story. And so he says to her, yeah, so I walk into the living room and he tells me in my life I've robbed a bank, sucked a cock, and killed a guy. And she said, he sucked a cock?
Here's much like that story. I have this to say. He went by the name of Dirty.
Yeah, Uncle Dirty.
I know. But the thing is, when you were just sitting around with him, you said, hey, Dirty, do you want, hey, Dirty, do you want to go get some lunch?
Yeah, Dirty. Hey, Dirt.
Hey, Dirt, did you...
Dirt Man.
Dirto.
Is there?
If he was in Australia,
is there a Mrs. Dirty?
Exactly. Is there an Aunt Dirty? What is happening? Anyway, second part of the story.
No, that is the second. So it's like the first part was him saying the thing, and
then the second part was the girl going, he sucked a cock? Did you know Mike Veneman?
No,
because he's
dead.
Know
Mikey V.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
And he narked on me one time for using the word cunt
on
stage. I know.
You used the word cunt. Why wasn't I there for that?
Mueller? No, not Mueller. That's
Ken
Mueller.
Mueller. Yeah,
Ken Mueller.
Yeah.
Kenny Mueller.
Yeah.
It was Ken Mueller. Not his kids.
Still booking cruise ships.
His kids are booking now. That's what's happened. That's what's heard. Yoder's kids are booking. Muller's kids are booking. So Ken Mueller.
One day Porter will do stand-up comedy and work for Mueller and Yoder's kids.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It'll just be generational. And you're like, hey, my dad worked this one-nighter at the Spaghetti Works in Sioux Falls one time. And
it's called Pepperonis, please.
That's right. It was
Spaghetti
Pepperonis.
Works. Like we'll ever work that big of a room.
It was Pepperonis.
Yeah.
I'm featuring for Mike Veneman.
Okay.
I get off stage, and Mike Veneman says, that's the one word you can't say. And I said, maybe not you, but I have one. I can say whatever I want. And he said, and so then 20 minutes go by, and Ken Mueller comes up to me and says, hey, Mike said that you said the word cunt on stage? And I go, yeah, the bitch thing doesn't. I was kind of eating it, so I have this new bit about the difference between the word bitch and cunt. Okay. It didn't work very well, but I gave it a shot. And he was like, yeah, try not to use that word so much. And then he just kind of laughed. He didn't even actually say that. Mueller didn't. He was just like, huh. And then he kind of walked away. It was specifically, I would like to point out that Ken Mueller did not tell me that I could not say it.
Right.
He was just like, he literally was like, huh. And then just kind of walked off. And then I burned that bridge anyway, but it's...
you gotta. If there's a bridge, you gotta burn it.
There was some one-nighter bridges.
That way nobody else can get across it.
I was super drunk. I was doing, I was doing a Mueller run. I thought I was doing a Pat run. This woman, Pat. So whatever it was.
Pat Wilson?
Pat Wilson.
Yeah.
So I lost. Here's what happened. I brought a guy back to my room.
Nice.
Get this.
Here we go.
Important for the story.
Important for the story. Did you guys have sex?
We didn't. Important for the story because he didn't have a condom. And
Good for you.
well, I don't know if you know this about my family. We're enormously fertile. I cannot possibly have sex without a condom, no matter how drunk I was. And I
Okay.
was very, very drunk. So we get back to the room. He doesn't have a condom. I say, "Oh, we can't have sex. I'm so sorry." And he goes, "I'll go get condoms." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be passed out by the time you get back because I have this last couple of drinks, and I was just going to keep drinking."
And that sounds more appealing to me.
And right now,
whatever.
I'm just going to drink myself into a blackout. Anyway, so he was like, "Okay," so he leaves, and so then I'm looking for my $200 for the night, and I can't find it.
No.
And I thought he stole it.
No.
And so I am sloppy drunk. And I call, it was a Muller run. I call Pat and I say that I've lost the money. I think it got stolen. I leave a message crying, drunk. I hang up. I realize I've called the wrong booker. I burned 2 bridges that night because then I call Muller. I leave the same horrible message.
No.
Yeah. And then I call Pat back and say, "I made a mistake. It wasn't you. It wasn't you guys." Hang up. And then I hang up from Muller. And then I look again. I find the money. Anyway.
Did you call him back?
Yeah, I called him back too. Neither one of those 2 people ever booked me again.
Why would they?
I don't know why they would. They shouldn't have.
Jackie, I have an inspirational story.
Good, because we're almost at an hour.
This is why I was saving this for the end.
Oh, there you go.
Because this is like because have you ever heard of a comic named Robin Williams?
Yes.
Yes, you have.
Yes, I have. We've all.
One of the most universally beloved human beings in the history of the universally beloved human beings.
Right, he was a great one.
He was a great one. And so if you're in stand-up comedy, if you've met Robin Williams, there's about an 80% chance you met him at the Throckmorton Theater.
Right.
Throckmorton Theater,
Mill Valley, California.
Which I just did, as a matter of fact, with Carmen Morales.
Last night, right?
Yes. It's in Mill Valley, California, and there's a bunch of comics that live around there. Dana Carvey lives around there. Mort Saul lives around there.
Right.
So they all just sort of hang out on the Tuesday night because they do a Tuesday night show there. And it's just
And
all
Robin used to do it as well.
And Robin used to come and do improv at the end of the show, but he'd hang out in the green room. And so finally I do it one time when Robin Williams shows up.
Yeah.
And this is very, very exciting for me.
Yeah.
So there's a couple comics in the green room, and one guy stands up, and Robin Williams comes in. And he says to Robin Williams, "Yeah, we've met a few times. My name is," and whatever his name was. And then it gets to me, and I said, "I want you to know, Robin Williams, I'm never going to say that to you. Every time you ever see me, the first words out of my mouth will be, 'I'm Auggie Smith.' If you ever see me again, it'll be I." And he says, "You're Auggie Smith." And I said, "I'm Auggie Smith." He said, "You're Auggie Smith." And so as we're sitting, like, just telling stories, and, with the funniest guy in the world, he kept interjecting, "You're Auggie Smith." He was like, "I'm Auggie." So just awesome.
That's
right?
awesome.
We're going back and forth. I'm in a bit with it. So then it's time for him to leave, and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna walk out with Robin Williams." Right.
Right.
So as we're leaving, I tell him, it's like, "Oh man, I know you hear all kinds of stuff, but The Fisher King it's literally my favorite movie of all time, and
Really?
I think your performance in it is just one of the great things in movie history." And he tells me this quick story about like being naked in Central Park with Jeff Bridges.
What?
And yeah, it was awesome. But this is my favorite part. So there's a little sort of alley that you walk down when you leave the green room,
The backstage
onto the
area,
street,
yeah.
the backstage area. So I go ahead and I'm just standing by the door, and he walks down to the alley, and there's this light on his face, and he turns on his heels and he looks back at me. He goes, "You're Auggie Smith," and then he walked away, and that was the last thing he's ever said to me.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
That.
I'm Auggie Smith.
You are Auggie Smith.
Yeah.
It's at Auggie Smith on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And it's at probably
I think
Smith
I'm
Auggie on
Smith Auggie on Instagram, but I never go to Instagram.
And AuggieSmith.com has all kinds of information.
Yeah. Schedules
It's,
and such.
Yeah, that is. I have to say that the first time I met Robin Williams, and every time I met him after that, I would say, we've met a couple of times. But
I'm never going to do that to anybody.
It's a weird thing. I did it actually yesterday morning, but I did it because I had met. I'm friends with his daughter,
Okay.
and I was like, I saw you here We've met a couple of times. I know your daughter is at her wedding. It was Walter Koenig,
Oh, right.
actor from Star
Yeah,
Trek,
yeah.
Star Wars. He played Chewie. I don't know if you can remember that about Walter Koenig.
On Galactica?
Yeah,
He's on Star Galactica.
Yeah, he was a Battlestar 1999 guy. But he was sitting there, and so whatever. But the first time I met him, Auggie Smith, was Comedy Day or whatever.
Right, the San Francisco, yeah.
The San Francisco.
Yeah,
it
they
used
do
to be
an all-day
much bigger,
show,
an all-day show
outdoors, in San Francisco.
And it was right before he went up, and somebody introduced me to him, or I introduced myself, something like that. And then Todd Barry, standing next to me, goes, "Who cares about him? I'm right here, Jackie Cation." And I was like, "Oh, that's right." And
Hi, Todd Barry. We've met a few times.
Todd Barry, we've met a couple of times before. My name's Jackie Cation. And one of the last times I met Robin was at Meltdown, Meltdown Comics. And he didn't remember me or anything, but I had just done a set.
Did he perform?
He didn't. He was just watching. Oh. And he came up to me after my set and he said, "You're really funny." And I was like, that means a lot.
Is that important to the story?
That
he said that?
That's actually the most important part of the story is that him and Gary Marshall both found me.
No, Gary Marshall?
Gary Marshall said that I was very talented.
Oh, my God.
You know what that is? That's a win.
That's a win right
You know what
there.
this is a dork forest where I toot my own horn.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm actually very good at this.
My dorkdom is tooting my own horn.
Toot toot.
Coming through. The SS-cation.
All right, how about comics who should be dead? We want to close on that? James Inman.
Oh, my God.
You got a James Inman story?
So I didn't think Inman was a real person. I thought that he was created by the guys in Seattle. Like it was just a story that
Like a
people
myth.
told, like Inman's coming and stuff.
I
I swear to God, like for the first, for
it was like the Loch Ness
it was
monster?
over a year that I thought that he
people
was just a
talked about.
punchline to a joke. Like he would just be like, and then James Inman came in. So the first story I heard about him, so Inman is going to go to a job interview.
Yep.
And so Inman, he puts on his short sleeve shirt with a tie.
Okay.
You know, like Sipowicz.
Yeah.
And this is
That's a reference.
this is Seattle. Now, there's a thing that happens, and I've seen this before. In Seattle, sometimes it rains so much that in like basement apartments or the plumbing gets so overwhelmed
With water?
that like water will start shooting out of like toilets and sinks and stuff.
Wow.
I've seen this on one occasion, so I know that it is a thing that happens.
Okay.
So Inman stops at this Burger King, and he's going to get his breakfast sandwich and then go to his job interview. So he eats his breakfast sandwich, and then he has to go to the bathroom.
Right.
So he goes into the stall, and he locks the door, and he poops,
Yep.
and then he's done pooping, and he gets up, and like he hears like like the plumbing starts to go crazy, and so it all of a sudden just it sucks all the water back in, and then shoots it out.
Uh-oh.
So it just he's in this stall, and
Trapped
it just
in the stall.
shoots just like water
And
and
poop?
raw sewage on him like confetti, like a
son of
poo pop, and he goes, and so in his haste to open the door, he like bends the lock. And it's one of those stalls that goes all the way to the ground to keep the heroin
can't get
addicts
out.
out. So he's stuck, and then he hears the and it sucks again, and then it shoots the shit
Oh
and
my
the
God.
waste and the water on him again. And it happens a total of 3 times before he can
'Cause
actually
that's the
get out.
funniest number.
So now he's just covered. He's just covered,
covered
in
for
like pee and poop and
water
toilet water. And
Stop.
So then he walks up to the front of the line of the McDonald's like, you gotta get somebody in there. And the guy's like, sir, wait your turn. And so Inman gets in line.
He gets in line,
He gets in line, just
covered, just soaking wet and covered in waste.
Yeah, you gotta get somebody in there.
Right? he tell this story?
I didn't hear this story from him. This is a story I heard about him. The story with him is worst guy ever to pick up chicks. One time we were working together and we get two girls back to his apartment and he had just broken up with his wife like a few months before or whatever.
Right.
And it was a slam dunk. I had my girl.
Everybody
he
was going to start
girl.
having sex.
It was a slam dunk.
It should have all
and
happened.
I'm sitting there, I'm on the couch with my girl and we're like talking to each other. It's getting kind of quiet. And I just hear Inman go, I read books. Do you read books? And then I look up, and he's yelling at this poor girl, waving some paperback in her face. I'm like, all right, this is over.
I never slept with James Inman but I was willing to.
Sure.
Because we went back to my apartment, and we talked until almost 4 a.m. about the books that he reads.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, because he reads books.
He reads books. We talked about philosophy, and then one of the next times I met him, or a second or third time I met him, he was like, have we ever met? And I said, James, we spent almost 6 hours discussing philosophy. We've met.
Oh, we've met. No, and I want to make this very, very clear.
Yeah.
I like James very much.
I like his comedy.
And
I did when I saw it.
And I understand people that don't, because he's a very abrasive dude. But I'm a big fan of, like, I like dudes like that. And also,
you do like dudes like that,
yeah.
And then his comedy is great.
Yeah.
So there's there's no reason. I mean, we're busting his chops on that story, but and with him reading all those books, but I think it was
ever
actually
goes right for this guy. It's just he's just a constant dark cloud raining over his head.
Well, except for the fact that he's incredible. Like, his knowledge of philosophy was fascinating.
Yeah.
I actually introduced me. We talked about in depth some Buddhism and some some philosophers.
He's a very smart dude,
and it was great. So, and he is alive. So we should end on a topic where, but he keeps. Like, I remember I would party with him, and he would drink. After Acme, he was headlining at Acme, I was emceeing. I would drive him back. This was so long ago, so it was 92, 93, that he was staying at the condo.
Right.
And I would drop him off in front of the condo and continue to drive drunk back to my apartment.
Sure.
And he would get out.
How else are you going to get home, Jackie?
Exactly.
There's no Uber back then.
How about no? And how about a bus? There were any number of them. So he threw up in the Tuesday night. He threw up in the bush outside the condo, and I got out of the condo and he just waved me off. He's like, "No, this will happen every night. Don't worry." And he just kept throwing up.
This is what I do.
This is what I do. And then so Wednesday he threw up. Thursday he threw up. Friday. I think it was Friday. Was the night I was like, "Hey, do you want to go drink at my house?" And then we just stayed up.
Bush?
Well, he didn't throw up because we ended up running out of booze or whatever and talking about philosophy.
But you never had sex with James Inman?
Never had sex with James Inman. Wow. But at the time, I thought, because I thought his stand-up was funny enough, that I would have sex with him. There was a very classy time in my life where I was like, that guy's funny enough.
Yeah.
I'd sleep with that.
You look past a lot of things.
I look past a lot of things.
I get the feeling there's been a few women in my life that was the case.
You're like, I hope so, because that means they like my act.
Yeah. But not me, not so much. The act, that guy, I like that guy.
Well, this has been a comedy episode of the Dork Forest.
Yeah.
That's weird, Auggie Smith. We don't do it that a bunch. We've gone, like, what is it, 3 minutes over?
Okay.
No? Wait a minute. Yeah.
All right.
That's a lot. It's real nice, though. It's taken us a long time to do the one-on-one. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, next time we'll do Nick Cage movies.
Oh, my God, we should have. We will. Okay, Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh, my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?